Scott, what's
Hey,
up, brother?
John. How are you, sir?
I am great. Let me get this damn thing powering up here. Hang on a minute.
Yeah,
We're good. We're good.
cool, cool. Well, you look great, my friend. It's great to see you.
Ah, and you've got a killer T-shirt, brother. I love that.
Oh, thank
Gotta
you.
love the Lizzie.
Yeah,
Gotta love the Lizzie.
yeah, man. And you guys did Bad Reputation, among others, I'm
Oh,
sure, over the
that's
years.
right. We
Yeah,
did. Yeah, that was fun.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Very cool, very cool. Well, it's an honor. And for people who don't recognize you, I mean, who's that? Um, but I'm here with John Gallagher from Raven, the pioneers of thrash metal. And there's so many bands we would not have if it was not for you, and your brother and the rest of the guys responsible for so much Raven music. So thank you.
You're welcome, but don't blame it all on us, please.
I mean, I'm 51. I came up in the Stay Hard era. That was my first Raven record, and On and On did very well. That whole record did very well. But I went back to the past catalog when I was first getting into you guys, and I mean, it's been so consistent from the beginnings to this Metal City record that's coming out. Is you've never stopped doing what you do, and I think thrash people, metal people, hardcore fans really appreciate that, because so many bands fall into a fit in type of thing where, like in the 90s we had, the grunge Seattle thing. You get a lot of bands that are trying to fit that mold a little bit. You guys never did that. You're always spot on.
Let me try and get this here in a minute. I don't want this thing dying on me. No, I mean, absolutely. It's, one of the things we've got is some originality. And that comes from how we started. We took from a lot of different bands, but the one thing we took was excitement and energy from each of them. And it wasn't a case of like, oh, I love Budgie, let's play exactly like Budgie, which
Right.
is the mindset of to me of a lot of bands.
Yep.
I don't want to hear another ninth-rate Slayer.
Right.
I mean, there's a first-rate Slayer. At least there was, and listen to them.
Yep.
Go do your own thing. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we've always had that, and we never stopped all the way through. And to my mind, we just got better and better, and we've really nailed it home on this one. We raised the bar so high from where we were going. We knew it was going to be a good record, but damn, it's a really good record. This is the best thing we've ever done as far as we're concerned.
And it's tough for me to agree with that, because I love so much of what you've done, but I would agree with that for sure. I threw it on and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from you guys. You're not in your 20s anymore, and I mean, even my idol, my all-time idol, like Rob Halford, I hear a difference in, that newest Priest record is phenomenal, but I hear a difference in the voice, and there's a certain timbre to the energy. For you, it's not any different. It's
No.
That same energy, and your voice is incredible still.
No, I'm lucky. I'm blessed with that. I can sing anything I've ever sung. I hit any of the notes I ever hit, and doing the vocals on this album was a hell of a lot of fun. It always is, working with Michael Wagner.
Yeah.
We got in there and we banged these vocals out in 2 days. Boom, boom, in and out.
Unbelievable.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Just the way to do it,
Yeah, well, then,
none of this, okay, let's spend a day working on 2 syllables.
Right. And I think that is a lot of your sound. It's raw. It's raw, and it's straightforward, and it's comes at you like a freight train. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, even though this was recorded, in the modern fashion, piecemeal, drums first, and then guitars, and then bass, and then vocals, we always leave, a good 30% for spontaneity and improvisation, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Things like solos and fills, whether it's drums, bass, guitar, or vocal. It's, you know, give it a shot, see what happens, and that's where the magic is. You know, the magic isn't writing it all down on paper and playing it exactly the same way for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's no magic in that.
Yeah.
The magic is getting out there and, you know, getting some lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. You know, and one of the first things I noticed when I put it on was the drums. You know, I grew up listening to Wacko. You know, Rob Hunter was you know, it was the face of the band for a lot of that time, because of the helmet and everything, and the sound. I mean, Raven's always had a very bombastic drum sound, and that has really, it's like you said, raised the bar. The drum sound on this record's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's an incredible talent. His technique is frightening, and he's creative and takes chances, and it's exactly what we needed. You know, it really is. He brought the songs to another level. The songs are great, and it inspired us. And, you know, everyone's playing. It's just kicked up that little bit more. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and he definitely did. You know, I noticed that right away. You have a song called Motorhead on the record. Is that a tribute to Motorhead? I don't, you know, it's,
oh yeah,
yeah,
it is.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pun. The lyrics are "got my motor heading over," so motor heading, motorhead, because
right.
you know the riff sounded kind of Motorheadish. I thought, you know what, it's a good time for a tribute to Lemmy. We'd done a tribute to Bon Scott on the record before, so I didn't want to be as overt about it. It's just, let's do it stylistically rather than singing about Lemmy goes to the shops or Lemmy's drinking a beer at the whiskey or whatever.
Right.
And so it's a biker song about a biker trying to get back to his girl, and that's best tribute we could think of, you know, as to, you know, the spirit of Motorhead.
Yeah, and it's well missed. It is, you know, one of a kind for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You did record with Michael Wagner again. You've recorded with so many, Eddie Kramer, classic, you know, just legendary. Steve Thompson, from Neat. You know, so you've been in contact with a lot of producers that have modeled your sound a little bit. But you've produced this yourself, and Michael Wagner engineers it, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Michael jokes about that. He says, "Yeah, you guys, all you need is a monkey who can hit play, record, and stop." You know. But I mean, he brings a lot to the table. He's just got an incredible ear. He's so fast with what he does, and it's such a great atmosphere working with him. We always have a lot of fun. I mean, this is the fourth project we've ever done with him. So
right.
Yeah, it's a comfortable fit, put it that way.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering that because, you know, he's done so much great on the things all over, but on the metal side especially. And you know, I talked to him years ago, and what a great guy too. But he was just so in tune with everything he was doing. You know, he listens to it closely, and he's gotta feel it in his heart. Is what he was telling me. So, you know, that it shows what he does. So.
Absolutely, he's you know, like-minded indeed. You know, he's got a passion for it, and you know, he's not getting any younger either, but he's not slowing down.
That's great. You know, that's great to hear because he's got a great studio there too. I know that. You know, Wire World. Yeah. I think we talked about that, and you know, crazy, great technology to do what he does. I noticed the bass lines in this are, you know, and that's something that gets overlooked, I think, with you guys. Because of that overall sound, you guys are a three-piece. Have always been a three-piece, correct? Yeah.
Well, we were a four-piece up until we started recording, until '79.
Okay.
And that's really one of the major factors that made the band what we are, is going as a three-piece and realizing the creative possibilities and the sonic possibilities, because all of a sudden you got a lot of real estate to cover, you know?
Yeah.
And So it really made us all step up, and you start really locking down arrangements and putting interesting parts in, where before you could just make a noise.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
we have to make a more clever noise.
well, and you're doing double duty. And you're not just thumping along. It's not a basic bass line. You're a bass player. You're playing complex bass lines, especially on this record. I noticed it's high in the mix, and it's extraordinary. I mean, you've really set the bar high for yourself. Do you feel like you wanted to do something a little bit more, a little bit extra on this record?
It's just, I think you can hear it more. I always
Yeah,
do that. It's
yeah,
always it's got to be adding to bringing something to the table rather than just four on the floor playing eighth notes,
hmm,
holding down the root.
right,
Especially with a three piece and with the view to playing it live, it's got to do more. So I'll play rather than copy exactly what Mark's doing. I'll do it sometimes, but other times when he's going up, I'll go down. Where
yeah.
he goes down, I'll go up, and I'll play chords. I'll use effects. I'll bend notes. I'll hit it. I'll whatever to make it stand out and be different and add to the music.
Yeah, and
Because, like you say, there's only the two of us playing, melody instruments. So, got to bring something out of that.
yeah, and that I think that's what sets you guys apart from so many. It's melodic on the instrumental side, whereas a lot of thrash bands tend to not be as melodic instrumentally. It's all straightforward and rapid fire and pretty simplistic a lot of times. You're playing really together. Almost like
Yeah,
almost like
you
a
got
Wishbone
to, and
Ash
it's
dual guitar.
orchestrated, and there's melody. There's got to be melody in music,
Hmm,
at all times.
hmm.
And it can be heavy and melodic. Absolutely. You take the melody away from the vocals, you take the melody away from the instruments. What do you end up with? Rap? No thanks. No
Yeah,
thanks.
no,
So
that's not
it's
the next
it's
record.
our
No.
music's definitely a balancing act between order and chaos, and melody and commerciality and noise, and it,
Hmm.
when it's comes together in the right way, then you get something different and it's special.
Yeah, it really is. It's magical what you guys do. Um, how does your rig look now, um, as opposed to not maybe not the beginning. I mean that's unfair, but the last record maybe 20 years ago. Do you keep it simple? Keep playing the same way through the amps, through the heads. Uh,
I do, but I must have had every piece of gear there ever was. I'm constantly trying. I mean, pretty much for the last 25 years, I've been using multi effects units, and usually guitar multi effects units, because
okay.
the bass ones have horrible distortion sounds. I like a good, powerful, fat distortion, and the bass ones just have this horrible fizz. And it's like, well, we
Okay.
can dial the low end in underneath, and that
Right.
I don't want that. I want it all to be distorted and horrible, and then clean when I want it to. So
Right.
it's basically evolved to that, because when I was playing solos, I wanted some more crazy effects. So the multi effects thing works out really cool for me. But this record, I actually used a Kemper,
Okay.
which is, if anyone's not familiar, it's a kind of a magic box. It's a modeling amplifier that has zillions of different amplifiers in, and you can actually record an amplifier and get its DNA and put it in, and then
Wow.
screw with it afterwards. We got the bass sound in like 2 minutes. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
What do you want? A dirty sound? How about this? Nah, what, another one? Yeah, that's good. Put a bit more bottom in, put a bit more of this. Okay, we're good. Let's go.
Wow. Wow.
It
Now,
was that crazy easy, pure luck, but it was very, very quick.
well, it's
And all we did is, for the solo stuff, cranked up the gain, used one or two effects here and there. But yeah, I didn't even have to bring my pedal board out the box. It worked, and I'm like,
wow.
Not going to mess with it. It's sounding cool.
That's awesome. You know, and it's great to hear that you're, you know, it's that simplistic, because it's about the music for you guys. You know, it's not a whole lot of running multiple track over track over track over track. At least it feels that way. So
yeah, I mean, there's obviously multiple guitar tracks here and there,
right,
and
right.
you know that there's obviously quite a few vocal tracks here and there, but the effect is to give that effect of what you hear live when you're getting hit with it loud, you know.
Yeah, that
We try to bring the live into the studio as opposed to the other way around, which a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
They want to recreate live what they've done in the studio. And no, it's not about that at all.
Yeah, you guys are a live band, no doubt. You know, I haven't had the pleasure to see you guys, and you know, I so regret that. But and I hope I do at some point. With this whole thing going on, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But I've seen the clips, and you know, so many of your live performances, and the energy is tremendous. I mean, it's really tremendous. You know, even now, you know, like I say, you know, none of us are in our 20s anymore, but you would never know from your live show now. And I know Mark is his legs are hurting him. I know that.
Yeah, he's doing okay. He really hurt his legs on the last bunch of dates back there. We were in Australia, and he was jumping around, and there was something on the floor next to the drum rise, and he went over on his ankle and really put his knee out. So he had to do the last couple of shows in a wheelchair, which was fun getting through the airport in a wheelchair. At least it got us primary consideration. Put it that way. But he's recovered from that pretty well. He's doing okay.
It's amazing, you know, his story, the whole thing in 01, and the years of recovery and what he was told wouldn't be able to happen. His fighting spirit, and you know, he doesn't take it easy either. You know, he could very well just stand in place, or you know, even sit down and play. But
it's not in the blood. It's the way it's got to be. You don't just hit a power chord. You have to feel it, and push it out physically. You know, that's what separates the men from the
boys. Definitely, and you guys pushing it out for sure. Tell me about the 12-string. I notice on the one sheet on the press release, it has you listed as playing 12-string bass. Now my son has a music degree. He's as a bass player. He's talked about, you know, 6 strings and everything else. We've never talked about a 12-string. Where does that appear on the album, if it does, and what's that like playing that?
I don't actually have any 12 strings at the moment. I love 12 string, and I have played them off and on for many years, but I had at least one destroyed by an airline. And when you're playing live with a 12 string, it's basically 4 sets of 3. Okay. So you're playing it as if it was a 4-string bass, but it has that, like a 12-string guitar, it has that jangle and girth to the sound. So I'm playing 8-string. I'll play 8-string, and I play 8-string on When Worlds Collide is 8-string, and Motorheading is the 8-string as well. Okay. On that, and the rest of it is pretty much my White's Flying V custom bass that I put together out of odds and ends, and my the old lady, the Red Explorer bass with a whammy bar. That's on a couple of I think it's on the solo on the Power. Yeah, I'll put that on there.
Now, is that the same one you've used for?
Yeah, 40 years old.
Yep. Man, oh man, it's got to feel good to get that Warhorse out and start recording with it, and it still sounds killer.
It does. It's actually sounds. It gets better. The older it gets, the better it gets. You know, I gave it a bit of a rehabilitation last year, and like lowered the bridge into the body a little bit, and which will make people laugh if they saw it up close, because it looks like it's been dragged behind a truck for 40 years more than anything else. But it's a straight up, it's a great sounding bass. But when I kick into overdrive and really crank the amps up and make it scream, it really comes alive then.
Man. And that's it's rare to have an instrument that serves you as well as that, because you take it on the road too as well, right?
I've played it almost every gig we've ever had since 1980. Yeah.
Wow. You didn't pay enough for that one.
It was relatively cheap. I'd paid money for a bass that a guy made me, and it was very nice. And I threw it up in the air at a gig, and it basically fell apart in midair without hitting anything. And I brought the pieces in, all upset and saying, "Make me a bass that won't break." And he's like, "All right, I'll fix your wagon." So he cut me an Explorer body out of plywood, and I bought all the other parts, and we threw it together, and been adding stuff to it ever since.
Wow.
Like extra pickups and a whammy bar, which nobody had.
Yeah.
And I conned a guy into making one for me. And, I had a whammy bar on that since, I believe, late 1980. And they didn't even come out commercially for another 5 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
Man. And like I say, pioneers, doing things that nobody else was doing, revolutionizing the sound, that whole genre of music. I don't believe we would have the Metallica we know, or so many other bands, but that, that magnitude, without you guys, because even they say that your music was a huge influence on them. And coming up in that time, I remember that. I remember you guys going out with them, and it's just, there was the father and son thing for me. That's how I saw it. The Raven and
no, it was their first tour opening for us there, and they watched, and they soaked a lot of it up,
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they were doing other things, but I think you can hear the difference between the first and second album was very much similar to the difference between Wiped Out and All for One.
Mm-hmm.
They went for a lot of power on a few songs and a little bit more dynamics. And, it really turned them into a different band. It really did.
Yeah.
And I think their stage persona as well changed a little bit, because they saw how we would handle the occasional indifferent crowd when we were playing Arkansas and places where no one knew who the hell we were.
Right.
We knew how to get into them and rile them up and get them going,
Mm-hmm.
And I think James in particular, by the time they did their next tour, was a different guy.
Yeah.
That now partially that's because they went out and played live a lot,
Yeah.
But I'd like to think a little bit of it came from us, and they've been very gracious and said a lot of really nice things about us. So, that's very cool, definitely.
Yeah, and that whole community, I think, all of those bands that you went out with and toured together, I remember that time was so great. And so many of those bands are still around, and you get along with all of them, and you still, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like we're old war buddies. Everyone's been through the mill.
Yeah.
Whatever ridiculous ego stuff was floating around with most of them has all been ironed out. And so we play a festival in Europe, and, Anthrax are there. It's like, "Hi, guys." And Death Angel are there. "Hey, guys."
Yeah.
And, Gary was playing with Slayer, Gary from Exodus. And, it's cool. And some of the older guys, too. I was very happy to hang out with Chris Glenn, with the Michael Schenker band, who introduced me to everyone in the band. And I just said, "Mr. Glenn, you're the first real band I ever saw was the sensational Alex Harvey band, and it's all your fault."
Yeah.
So
awesome.
the torch gets passed down, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is. The last album, Extermination, you did a crowdfunding thing, and that went really well for you guys, I think, and got that done. But you had a Party Killers album.
Yep.
Yeah, with the covers. Amazing covers. I love the Deep Purple cover, is so good. You ever think about releasing that on its own? It was a special thing for those Kickstarter people, but it's like the holy grail for the Raven fan now. Ever think about releasing that on its own?
We'll probably press it up and probably sell it live, I think, rather than anything else to keep it special.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to do another one. We might be doing it in 2021. We definitely want to do another one.
Awesome.
Because we had a bit of time. We were in LA after playing China. So we had to get real food. And we were at Mike's and we worked on some new material, which is sitting there. We still have to review that and get back to it. But we also went over the concept of doing another Party Killers and did some scratch tracks on a few songs. And some of the song choices were so out of lunch, you would die laughing. And it was brilliant because it's just like, what's the song no one would expect you to do?
Right.
And we pulled some of them out and worked them up, and they sound awesome. And it's
cool.
great.
That's cool.
So, you know, that's in the pipeline for later on. But of course, right now it's all Metal City. So
yes, and what a record it is, man. It's pure Raven. And when you were going into recording that, you know, you've been doing this a long time. Every record's new. What was in your mindset when you first started writing the record? Did you say to yourself, we want to keep it pure, or, you know, just straight ahead Raven, keep it traditional, or do we want to do something a little bit different? Did you have an ultimate goal?
It doesn't really work like that. You know, sometimes I'll pick up a guitar and the first thing I play, I'll be like, oh, what's that? That's weird. Record it. Come back to it later. Or sometimes, get the recorder set up, play it, and just keep playing and see what else comes out. See what else. It's all about see what else comes out.
That's cool.
And if it's a good deal with that, I'll just hit stop and then I'll play something else. And it's all, you know, spontaneous. It's like you're plugged into something and receiving transmissions. And if it's a good day, you'll have a couple of hours worth of stuff. And sometimes it's just fragments when you go back and go, well, I don't like all that, but that one part there is really, and especially if I'm listening to Mark's stuff or he's listening to mine, you go, that part there, make a song out of that. That's great.
That's cool.
So it just happened had clarity of thought during the writing process for this and came up with a lot of songs that were really good. And the biggest difficulty we had was saying, which ones are we going to do?
Right.
Because there's like literally 30 great songs here. Which ones are we going to do? And we just said, well, what would be a good opener? And The Power jumped out. That's great. Where would we go with that? Top of the Mountain. Perfect. Get in there. Then we're going to be crazy. Human, and we just build it up like that all the way through. You know, and some of it makes sense. It's like you've got a couple of epic songs. Well, you can only have one of them. You know, it doesn't make sense. So here's epic number 2. I mean, there's got to be that ebb and flow and have, you know, the song stand on its own merit without having, here's another one very similar over there, which can happen, you know. So you pick what you think's the best and go with that. And it worked out really well. The sequencing is great. It flows brilliantly. And when you're finished, you want to put it back on again, just like those classic records when you were a kid. So works for me.
Yeah, totally. Now, you say, you know, you had like 30 songs. One's, you know, I hate to ask this, it's not even out, but do you have are you thinking about another release date for another record? You know, are they pretty much done?
Yeah, the songs are right there. I mean, if we needed to do a record right now, absolutely, not a problem. And it would be really good. But of course, you always want to raise the bar. So it's like, what else you got?
Yeah.
So we've never had any problem writing material. I mean, if we recorded the songs we never used, we'd go on for another career. It'd be ridiculous. But you've got to do that. You come up with an idea and you see it through to the end, and then you go, okay, does it stand on its own, or is it just okay? Right. And if it's just okay, it goes back on the shelf, and you either retool it later, or you strip something off it, or it just sits on the shelf. You know, you never know. So sometimes you revisit the old stuff. I mean, I've got cardboard boxes full of riff cassettes from the
Right.
80s and 90s.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. And, 90% of it's being used or it's garbage or whatever. But, there's gold in them there hills sometimes.
There you go.
I prefer to come up with a fresh gold rather than just trolling back through that all the time,
Right, right. Did Mike have any? A lot of your older records have the three members credited for writing. Did Mike contribute to the writing process at all?
In the arrangement and in his performance, not really on the writing. We had the songs already together pretty much. We did write one song together, which is the extra track for Japan, which is a track called Rock This Town, which is a really fun, kick-ass, live, it's really live, three-piece type thing in the middle. It's a lot of fun. But it didn't work putting it in the, so we said, well, Japan always needs an extra track. Perfect. We'll pop it on there. We'll do that.
And, I'll ask you about that because a lot of people don't realize, don't either notice it, or when they do notice it, they don't know why. Why the extra track for Japan?
Well, because imports are so much cheaper than the domestic. And to make the domestic appealing, they have to give it something different.
Okay.
That's the whole reasoning for that.
Okay.
They have to have that, otherwise they get flooded out by the imports, and it makes no sense for them. Right. So the audiences know this there, and they wait for the domestic release so they can say, "Hey, we've got something you don't."
Right. Yeah, and I sit here and there's so many of those records where I got to go get the import to get that extra track. I'm one of these collectors where I have to have everything, every single note that you ever played. I have to have it.
That's the fun part. I'm totally into that. And then you find out, what do you mean they did an extra track? What? Yeah. I gotta hear that.
Oh yeah,
gotta have it.
Yep, and and when you're talking about sequencing of the tracks and everything too, it's such a great thing to hear. Coming, being my age and coming from that age of recording, where everybody had an ebb and a flow to the record. You put it on, and it was a journey. It's not so much like that anymore. So, you made it a point to keep that to keep that intact with this record.
But it's the way we do it. We've done it like that for years, and we'll continue because it's an art form. Yeah, you have the full package. You have the art. You have the whether it's an album, like a CD or vinyl, and you put it on and you listen to it as a whole. Mm-hmm. Rather than here's a download from I don't know who, and I don't know where it was done, who's on it, what it is. It's utterly faceless.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that might be great for someone to say, hey, check this out, you might like it. And then you want to delve deeper. Okay, I get that. That's fine. Yeah. But the immersive experience of having one of your favorite bands, here it comes. I mean, as a kid, there's a new Judas Priest record coming out next week.
Yeah. Yeah, waiting at the door.
The new Rainbow album's coming out. The new Thin Lizzy, the new Led Zeppelin even went out because I'm that old. So those things, it was an experience, and to have that taken away from people these days, it's great to see young kids getting into vinyl.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a part of having that experience. So, and we're lucky that we're in a genre that people want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on 1 second here.
Okay.
I've got my bear with me 1 minute.
Yep.
I've got to jump off. Are you with me?
I still am with you.
Good man.
All right.
Yeah, he's pulling the why aren't you answering me?
Yeah. On the one sheet, again, the press release, you say there will definitely be lots of touring, and you mention an opening slot on a quote unquote good tour for 2021. Can you expand on that, or is
I
that
can't.
okay?
It's been delayed, of course,
Right.
and we'll see what happens. It was originally going to be October, and it got put back, and it's probably going to be October of 2021.
Okay.
It was an odd choice for us, but it's fun because it's going to be a different audience. So we'll see how that goes, and also we'll be doing our own thing as well. But we do have European dates booked for February, and as soon as we're able to do so, we'll play everywhere else we can get our grubby little hands into.
It's pretty amazing. It's great to hear. It's great to see that you guys are going to be out here doing what you do. Um, Mark, how does he feel about going on the road for an extended period of time? Is he good?
Loves it.
Yeah,
Loves it. Road dog.
he's got to.
Nothing better. We are definitely in sync as far as that's concerned.
Yeah,
It's what it's all about. We get to meet our fans. We get to play our music. Uh,
yeah,
very lucky people.
yeah.
We are very lucky people. And because of that, and because we understand that and appreciate that, we have a responsibility to put out every single time. And that's what we do.
No doubt, no doubt. And as a fan, the bands that I love are like family. You want to see them stay together, and you want to see them happy, and you want to see them healthy. Yeah, I have this concern for Mark. I want him to be. I don't want him to hurt. I want him to be okay, and he's got to love what he does. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to do this, you got to love what you do.
Yeah,
It's, 20, 25 hours a day.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Do you ever see yourself stopping? Do you ever see yourself just saying that was a great run? I'm gonna enjoy, whatever's here.
Nah, not for the foreseeable future. We're having way too much fun.
That's so great to hear. That's so cool. That's so cool. I know you got a busy day, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I thank you so much. What's at the top of that bucket list? What do you want to do most of all? You've lived a great life. You've given so much in music and seen so much, done so much. What's the one thing, if there's one thing that tops your list, what would you like to do?
Well, the one thing we've never really got to do very much is to actually play opening slots. It's challenging because it's somebody else's audience and you have to win them over. And we've done a few the last couple of years. We opened for Udo in Europe, and then we opened for Saxon in Europe. And there was places we hadn't played before. And by the time you come back on the second one and you see a line of people with the t-shirts and getting into it, you're getting somewhere. So, to do those kind of things is definitely up there on the list for us because it's great preaching to the converted, but if you can reach people who have no idea what you're about and win them over, and we do that. It's like, I don't like heavy metal, but you guys are great. That's the greatest thing to ever hear, because it transcends genres and expectations when you just entertain and you bring people into the fold. So we love doing that and hope we have more opportunity to do that. And at the same time, there's still places we want to play. I mean, the Far East, we haven't played Singapore, we haven't played Thailand, we haven't played India. I don't see us going back to China in a hurry, but you never know.
But you have played so many corners of the world, and that's a great journey.
Yeah, and a lot of it was over like the last 10 years, so there's still mountains to climb and battles to win. So we're out there doing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, John, thank you for your time today. And I'm in Chicago. I'm about 30 miles west of Chicago. Anywhere close to Chicago you come, I'm going to be there. And,
good man. We love playing Chicago. We're always there. So come on down.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. All right, John. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk soon.
Thank
All
you,
right.
brother. Take
All
care.
right. You too.